Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you're all having a good day. In today's episode, this is episode 101, we're going to answer 101 questions about Minecraft. So, let's get to it. What's your favorite update in Minecraft since you started playing? At this point, Caves and Cliffs takes that award from me. Terrain is so much more interesting now. What do you enjoy the most in Minecraft? I'm a big believer in enjoying every single part of the game, but I'm still a builder at heart. Can Endermen teleport to waterlogged leaves? No, they can't. Endermen can't teleport to any waterlogged block, regardless of whether or not the player can stand in it without getting wet. And this is a really useful thing to know in teleport-proofing Enderman farms. If the mace could have block interaction functionality, like the axe being able to strip wood, what would you like to see it do? Flatten blocks into slabs. What is your favorite block in Minecraft? Emerald ore. Could you show off some inventory mechanics? Using number keys to swap items between inventory and hotbar, holding shift and double-clicking to move all stacks of one item in and out of your inventory, and middle clicking to pick block are my three favorite inventory tricks. Do you think there will ever be a mob vote with past mobs such as the Crab, Moobloom, and upgraded Blaze, whose name I'm blanking on? That's called the Wildfire, and it's actually in Minecraft Dungeons now. But no, I doubt they'll do a runners-up vote. It feels weird to get leftovers sometimes. Are slime chunk farms still a viable method to farm slime? Absolutely they are. Even if more efficient methods are available, a farm is still a farm. How far away do splash potions affect entities? Splash potions have a radius of 4 blocks, but the effect duration decreases the further away you are from the center. What are the top 3 things new players should know so they don't get discouraged dying all the time? Sleep away the nights. Make yourself some backup tools. And remember, you started with nothing and you made it this far. What is the best biome to build an efficient wither skeleton farm in? A soul sand valley or a warped forest? I still prefer the warped forest because you don't have to deal with ghasts. Which parity feature do you want on Java from Bedrock and vice versa? Subtitles for Bedrock and impaling damage on Java. What do you think the ominous bottle tastes like? Revenge. No, wait. Vanilla. What's one Minecraft mechanic or game quirk you love but rarely get to share? If you name tag a Vindicator Johnny and let it join a pillager patrol, the pillagers' crossbows start firing at everything. What color wool do we get if we shear a Jeb Sheep? Whatever color the sheep was before you name tagged it. Are parrots still found in Minecraft? If yes, I definitely want you to tame all variants of those in upcoming episodes. Yes, parrots are still in the game and can be tamed, but can't be bred. What's an actual good use for the crafter? It's got a face you can use for statues? Seriously, if you're not sold on the concept of automatic crafting by now, I'm not sure what I can tell you. If someone has little time to play Minecraft, what kind of projects do you think are best for them? Work on a single base, something small like a village, or maybe an expanding cave base you can just add bits to. Or live nomadically, explore, and have adventures without concern for the consequences. Which biomes spawn trial chambers? Pretty much all of the ones in the overworld do. I think they try to avoid the deep dark. Which passive mob spawns in the most biomes? I couldn't quite track down exact data on this, but if I had to guess, it's probably sheep. There are some biomes where other passive mobs like cows and chickens and stuff don't spawn, but you can usually find sheep in those. Like meadows and cherry groves, for example, will still spawn sheep even though they have a limited supply of other passive mobs. How does glazed terracotta placement work? The opposite way round to how you think it does. Look at the magenta glazed terracotta in my hand. The arrow's facing towards me, right? When I place it, the arrow's facing away from me. Go figure. What's the most complicated crafting recipe? Ironically, I think it might be the crafter, or maybe cake. What are some simple ways to improve your world's efficiency, like the composters over your item sorter hopper line? These are actually obsolete now. I'm fairly certain any solid block will now prevent a hopper from checking above it for items, so we don't need to worry about that as much anymore. Aside from that, try and keep entity count down, so removing things like armor stands and item frames should hopefully free up a bit of resources. But these are really concerns for a multiplayer server with a lot of players doing the same stuff. In a single player world, you shouldn't really need to worry about it. Which mob from Minecraft would you bring to the real world if you could, assuming it would have the exact same geometry and behaviors? Definitely the sniffer. Any advice for finding dogs in the various biomes? I would say visit biomes you haven't traveled to before or reset some chunks. That makes a higher likelihood that the game will generate a bunch of new mobs when the chunks themselves start to generate. What would improve your Minecraft life the most in an inventory update? Probably the bundle actually being in the game.
That's right, bundles! Get ready to optimize your inventory with
bundles.
Have a great summer, everyone!
What kinds of arrows do you wish you could make with a fletching table? I think explosive arrows or an arrow that placed a torch on a wall would be really useful. Why is the animal breeding advancement called the parrots and the bats, referencing the birds and the bees obviously, when neither parrots nor bats are breedable in-game? Very good question. Also, we have bees and they can breed, but the advancement was named before bees were added. What's the best approach to take when designing roofs? I don't know. And if you know, call me. But seriously, look up reference images if you plan on building realistic roofs, and try not to overthink about it if you're designing something more cartoony. What is your go-to way to store items? Auto storage for bulk stuff, nearby barrels for all of the variants, an ender chest for the essentials, and accept that everything else is gonna be miscellaneous. Why wolves instead of actual dogs? Probably because there are way too many dog breeds to be inclusive to everyone's desires. Plus, Blockbench exists. How often do you go to your storage room for something and then forget what you came in for? What was the question? I just recently learned that furnace minecarts can link to other minecarts. Is that a feature of Minecraft that's too fiddlesome to bother with? I also just learned this, and it seems like the mechanics that allow them to stay attached are just too inconsistent. Plus, furnace minecarts are weird to interact with. They don't even exist on Bedrock Edition. Which biome would you say is the easiest to start in? It's probably plains. There's lots of open space for building, easy access to animals for food, and there's almost always wood available. Plus, you can see monsters before they sneak up on you. And which is the hardest? I think Badlands are actually bad in this case. Most of the time, the wood is on top of plateaus that you can't reach easily, there's no mobs around for food. It's a tricky situation. What are the best or most useful redstone circuits to familiarize yourself with? Observer clocks, dropper clocks, observer and piston systems, hopper item filters, and auto crafters. What is the best villager profession? Librarians. What tips do you have for building massive circles? Plots.co.uk. Do you think we should be able to combine a shulker box with a netherite ingot to create a fireproof shulker box for better nether exploration? So little known fact, shulkers actually drop their contents when destroyed now, although if it's in lava you have to go into lava to get it back. Also, cactus still destroys everything. Where my cactus haters at? Who do you recommend we watch for bedrock tweaks to things like iron farms? There are lots of great bedrock tutorial creators out there, but I recommend Prowl8413, Blue Jay, Silent Whisperer, and JC Plays. Do hidden achievements like How Did We Get Here show up after you've completed the required previous achievement, like a Furious Cocktail? They don't, and here's an example we can do together. I'm gonna go and buy a couple of cakes from one of my farmer villages, and revise my opinion that one of the things I want from bedrock that isn't on Java is stackable cakes. But right now I have all the visible achievements associated with allays. The most recent one, you've got a friend in me for having an allay deliver items to you. There is a hidden advancement right here. We're going to get it now by giving this allay a cake and then dropping off a cake for it to deliver to this note block where I've been using it to gather stuff for composting. And we get the hidden advancement birthday song, which now shows up where there was no advancement before. Also a great time to point out that cake can be composted. What changes, if any, would you make to the enchanting system? Recently I've been finding it kind of strange that player XP is never used to improve the player, it's only ever used to improve your equipment. So I would maybe separate it from player XP and create a skill tree. I would also remove or raise the level cap for anvil repairs, because it feels kind of outdated at this point. Will placing a small bud amethyst cluster on a budding amethyst block get it to start growing again? Let's see, all we gotta do is place this here and potentially wait 90 minutes. Yes, the answer's yes. Besides the mace, what could be other good uses for the heavy core? You gotta ask yourself, the core of what? I would love more multi-block structures like beacons or conduits. Maybe some sort of netherite golem. If you could add an additional enchantment that's not sharpness to the trident, what would it be? By Poseidon's beard, some way of controlling fish. But once again, I would just settle for impaling doing as much damage to stuff in the rain or in water as it does on bedrock. What are your recommendations for someone who is coming back to the game but hasn't played for several years? I mean, I've got an entire series of advice for people who are new to the game, but consider following the advancement trees to find new stuff to do. And just explore, because the world has changed a lot in the last few updates. Do you think there should be upgrades like diamond, etc. for dog armor? Wolf armor already absorbs 100% of damage and can be repaired with more armadillo scutes, so I don't think we really need diamond wolf armor. It feels like the only advantage that would have would be increased durability, which doesn't make any sense when you can repair this stuff infinitely. Are raid farms, whether stacking or not, going to be worth building, not only for the normal loot, but also for the ominous bottles? At this point, stacking raid farms may be a thing of the past, but raids are still going to give you emeralds, witch drops, and totems, so your mileage may vary. But if it's just ominous bottles you want, consider setting up a farm around a pillager outpost. If you had to choose one old texture or sound to bring back, which one would it be, and why? Personally, I liked the crafter better in snapshots before it had this stone border around it. But it's worth remembering, textures and sounds can always be changed by resource packs. When you leave your base to go exploring, what are some things you always take with you? All the tools except for the hoe, a bow and arrow, some pre-made torches and stuff to craft them, another stack of logs just in case, a bucket of water, a stack of food, and an ender chest containing everything else. Can you use the potion effect of a tipped arrow any number of times without losing the effect from the arrow? As long as the arrow doesn't hit anything and you still pick it up while it's emitting particles. Piercing crossbows are really good for this because they can hit multiple targets and the arrow still lands on the ground to be picked up by the player afterwards. Is there really a useful use for the new potions? I mean, cobwebs are renewable now and any mob can be farmed for slime? I'm gonna go with yes. Oh, I wanted to take this cow pen down anyway, but this is an absolute mess. 15 cobwebs and 24 slime blocks out of that. Not bad. Honestly, we'd have got more cobwebs if this wasn't such a constrained area. Out of every block family, stone, copper, deep slate, quartz, etc., which one has the highest variety of blocks? I originally thought this was gonna be deep slate. It's got a couple of cracked variants of things like tiles and bricks, and all of those are stairs and slabs and everything else. And then I remembered copper has 4 variants of every block. Is your tool durability usually displayed in vanilla, or do you use something to show it? On Java Edition, you can press F3 and H to enable and disable the advanced tooltips, which shows you durability and a few other bits and pieces of the technical details behind the scenes of your tools. Unfortunately, this doesn't work on Bedrock, but I'm pretty sure there's an add-on for it, so maybe look into that. What are the best trades for grinding XP and emeralds? Depends on what farms you have, but I'm trading a lot of iron these days. Melons and pumpkins are also good. Anything that you can get down to a 1 item per 1 emerald trade. Do you think the fletching table will ever have a functionality? It has a functionality now. It turns villagers into fletchers. How would you recommend a new player approaches learning redstone? Everyone learns differently. I prefer to learn by experimentation. Video tutorials are a close second. If I read text about redstone, I glaze over. But I think the most important thing is to figure out what redstone can do to help you in your world. Instead of just doing redstone for redstone's sake, consider using it to make automatic farms that can help you gather resources. How do you think the mace will change Minecraft's combat? I don't really know about the PvP scene, but in PvE, everyone's going to use it for trick shots and then go back to using swords because they're easier. Does the rarity of the mace and the penalty for falling into the void make an end update less likely? I don't know what the rarity of the mace has to do with it, but here's a counterpoint to the other part. Elytra. Elytra are both the reason that we explore the outer end in the first place, risking falling into the void in order to acquire some, and they're also a way that we can make exploring the void safer, so that we can find anything new in an end update. Do you ever freehand your builds on occasion, or are they all planned in creative first? A bit of both. Sometimes planning helps, other times I can wing it a bit. I rarely do interiors in creative first. What happens if you have 2 bells in a village? Do they both work, or does only the first bell work? Villagers should gather around either of them, depending on which one they claim. Can you change the mob from trial spawners by changing the 4 surrounding blocks? Nope. As you can see here, I've removed all of the blocks from around these trial spawners, and when they activate, they will still spawn a breeze. The only way you can change trial spawners is with spawn eggs, which are only available in creative mode. What are some good reasons to use locking a repeater, and why doesn't anyone ever use it? There are some occasions on which locking repeaters can show up, but typically you don't find much use for them outside of very compact redstone circuits. Before the Minecraft team introduced calibrated sculk sensors, a circuit like this was one of the only ways you could get a precise frequency out of a sculk sensor without including any of the other frequencies. So right here, this setup outputs a redstone signal if it hears my footsteps, but if it hears me jumping up and down or doing anything else, this repeater here locks, and that prevents it from outputting a redstone signal. Of course, we now have calibrated sculk sensors, so this was sort of rendered obsolete, but a redstone decoder circuit like that, where an input signal outputs from certain places depending on the signal strength, is actually really useful in a lot of other situations. What's the best source to find information about miscellaneous technical changes in Minecraft updates? Either Sliced Lime or Azuma's YouTube channels. Are there any uses you know of for endermites outside of enderman farms? Annoying your server mates on multiplayer? Dying humiliating deaths if that's what you're into? What's a block or group of blocks you think should get some stairs, slabs, and so forth? I'm gonna nominate calcite for this one. A lot of people will say concrete, but I think at the moment that's an inventory management nightmare. Why are there 2 different kinds of ominous banner? One type has a list of patterns applied to the banner, the other doesn't. They don't stack together. Banners from pillager captains should stack together if you don't do anything with them after that, but you used to make them unstackable if you placed and broke them because the way banner recipes work. I think since the item component system was introduced, that's been fixed, but these 2 still don't stack together. Is there a way to get a chicken to take fall damage, and how ridiculous can you make it? So the best shot I could take at this was going back to an earlier version of Minecraft where players would take fall damage in boats from certain heights. That's been fixed in 1.21, but here in 1.19.4 it still works. If you fall from 49 blocks, the boat breaks and you hit the ground. It's also one of the only times these days where you see a boat break into planks and sticks again. And if this happens to the player, it should also happen to passengers. So this villager is going to die on impact as well. But if we do this with a chicken in the boat, notice it's already flapping its wings. the chicken is going to survive. So I conclude that chickens are immune to fall damage, but if you can find another way, let me know in the comments. Do different cartographers give maps to different mansions, monuments, and trial chambers? Yes, but on Bedrock a single cartographer does that, which they don't on Java. Do you think farming trial chambers will be worthwhile compared to traditional mob farms? Of course, if there is unique loot, it is definitely worth farming. Consider that you can't get breezes anywhere else. Also, ominous keys and trial keys are worth farming too. Aside from that, it's a great way of getting slime if you haven't set up a slime farm yet, provided your trial chamber has slime spawners anyway. But since the spawners have a cooldown, farm designs could be challenging, and we're going to talk about those in a future video. What's the most challenging redstone project you've ever done? Say hello to David. This is a project I created to spread copper out for me based on the fact that copper ages faster when it's at least 4 blocks apart. This is incidentally another place I've used locking repeaters, but launching this flying machine will distribute copper throughout the system, divided into rows which are collected by these machines that separate them out 4 blocks apart and let them age. Is this overkill? Yes. Do I love it? Also yes. And you can check out the full tutorial elsewhere on my channel. Why does Minecraft have no migrating birds? Because they'd probably just fly into unloaded chunks. Is it possible to automate a farm using only the breeze? Wind charges can manipulate certain redstone components. They can also apparently break pointed dripstone, although maybe that's more true of the breeze's wind charge than the players, or maybe that just doesn't happen anymore. Most projectiles can also be used to break chorus flowers, so you could automate a chorus farm using the breeze. Are bogged or skeletons, or strays I guess, the harder enemy? Skeletons are tougher and shoot faster, but don't poison or slow you. Strays also have 20 health and fast attacks, so I think the strays probably win. Poison from the bogged arrows only lasts a couple of seconds, they have less health, and they also shoot slower. What are some methods to stay focused and better manage your time when working on a huge build project? That's where I will advocate for using planning tools. There's mods out there, Lightmatica is one I've used in the past. They really help you plan stuff in creative mode, and that can help tremendously. Plus, they have some tools that do help speeding up the process of rebuilding it in survival. If that's not your jam, I completely understand, but if it's time saves you're looking for, that will help a lot. Because a lot of the time in survival building is wasted through stuff like trial and error, realizing you've built half the build 1 block too far over, or something like that. When do skeleton horses spawn? During thunderstorms in any biomes that can have natural lightning strikes, which is any biome where it rains. There is still, I think, a misconception that skeleton horses happen when lightning strikes an existing horse. That is not the case. The lightning itself actually spawns a horse. We'll do a video about these whenever I encounter one. What method do you prefer for gathering large amounts of redstone? I will advocate for trading with clerics. Raid farms used to be faster, I don't know if they still are. Witches recently got a buff in terms of how much redstone they drop, but I prefer playing the game more actively, and that involves trading. Is there an enchantment you have never used? I've still never used Breach or Windburst. How do you feel about Minecraft pets? You can have them as pets or game mechanics, but not both. I kind of feel the same about villagers. You can treat them like people or you can treat them like game mechanics, but the waters get muddy if you try to combine the two. Are there any ideas for new raid farms that you know about, since the traditional ones don't work anymore? Actually, traditional raid farms should still work in terms of actually helping you to complete raids easily. They just won't stack up multiple raids per minute. There's now a bit of a cooldown between when raids can happen, and you also have to keep drinking ominous bottles, but consider farming those from a pillager outpost, and I'm sure the community will have new raid farms optimized soon enough. What mods, if any, should vanilla Minecrafters consider? That's entirely up to your personal preference. Obviously, performance mods will help with vanilla, minimap mods are out there that can be very helpful. I would say try some community-made data packs before you dip into modded content, but then look at vanilla plus stuff like Quark. Is it theoretically possible, regardless of how rare, to come across a naturally generated loot chest filled with 27 enchanted golden apples? No, because loot chests always have to have some empty space. Ancient cities loot chests always contain a maximum of 4 to 10 stacks of specific items, so you could never have more than 10 enchanted golden apples. Do you think there's a point where Mojang will add too many features to Minecraft that they won't all be used? They've done that now. There are unused features in the code itself, like giants, illusioners, and
bundles!
And let's be real, when was the last time any of you saw a rabbit? What's the best method of large vertical liftoff? Windburst mace or Riptide trident? So a trident with Riptide 3 will carry you about 21 blocks into the air. A mace with Windburst gives you 7 blocks of vertical travel for every level of Windburst, which maxes out at 3, so once again, 21 blocks. They're basically identical, but if you're using Riptide in the rain, you might never come down. What are some fun and easy projects to do with friends? Build! Set up minecart roller coasters. Raid woodland mansions and watch them die. What is the best way to deal with cursed armor and tools? Smelt them, to be honest. You can't even get rid of curses by combining them in an interface anymore. You could always consider giving them to armor stands. How long have they removed the bone meal sugarcane for? You can still do it on Bedrock, and it's never been a thing in Java. What is the chance of getting a heavy core? 7.5%. Odds are you'll get one after 13 ominous vaults. What are some clean ways to hinder villagers from walking into my nether portal? Fence gates or rails in front of it should prevent them from walking in. Carpets over the top of berry bushes also works. What is the coolest looking armor trim? Basically silence. Although honestly I quite like the rib one as well. Is the carrying capacity of a llama genetic? Yes, you do have to breed up for bigger storage in llamas. Also, wow, it took me a long time to find llamas. 2 3-slot llamas are capable of producing a 6-slot llama, but not a 15-slot llama. You have to breed up for larger capacity. Yet another reason why people still prefer horses. What are some tips for not getting lost? In a very straightforward sense, I recommend enabling coordinates and making sure you know the coordinates of places you want to return to. But for a more immersive approach, consider navigating using maps or make sure that there are landmarks nearby you can easily spot. You can also navigate using the sun, much the same as you can in real life. If the sun rises in the east, it sets in the west. Meaning that if you're facing west and you turn right, you're looking north. If you turn left, you're looking south. You can also leave yourself a trail of torches to follow. I do this a lot in caves, where I put torches on the left so I can find the right way back. In more cavernous terrain like the nether, consider using the scumpus, a simple 2-high pillar of material that stands out with a torch indicating the way back to your nether portal. Why is wool the preferred method for showing redstone circuits? Well, as you can see from this example, you don't have to use it all the time, but different materials help you divide up the different parts of a circuit so you know what each one does, and for a while, wool was the only colorful material, so it just kind of stuck around. Is Minecraft on hard difficulty actually easier long-term compared to easier normal due to better mob drops, more rewarding raids, and some mob damages being equal? Suppose it depends heavily on your gameplay style and your definition of easy, but I like to have 100% chance to zombify villagers and a bit more XP from armored mobs. I dislike being shot more accurately by skeletons, which is a side effect of playing on hard mode. Is the current best infinite fuel lava dripstone cauldron method? Or another method? Lava is a pretty cool fuel, but you can't collect it automatically and it doesn't stack. With the advent of the crafter, kelp blocks are now automatically craftable. They can stack to 64 and each one will smelt 20 items. So 5 of these in a stack is the equivalent of a bucket of lava anyway. If you don't want to smelt stuff in bulk, consider bamboo. If you have an automatic tree farm, consider charcoal. If you have a wither skeleton farm, consider coal. The thing about fuel is it smelts everything the same way. What structures need upgrading? Personally, I would love an overhaul or an expansion to jungle temples. What's your favorite death message you've managed to get? Left the confines of the world is one that I got on Minecraft SOS for being outside the world border, although that was an admin accident. Why does bone meal only spread nylium by 1 block instead of several? Maybe for slightly more precise control? And to limit griefing? But my follow-up question is, why so many green particles? What information do we have about the portal in the Deep Dark? Well, we know that the game's structure files call it a portal. It's made of reinforced deep slate, which cannot be moved and doesn't drop if you take the time to break it. That's it. What is your favorite mob death sound? Honestly, pillagers. What is your avatar's shoe size? 101 questions have now been answered. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you folks soon. Take care. Bye for now.